Welcome back. Issues at Hand, WBS TV. Peter Kivazo, with me, the Commissioner General of URA, Madam Doris Akwong. Doris, the soft platforms, the e-platforms of tax.
Yes.
Are they giving you more money at URA? Are they making your work easier? Or are they making work very hard for the guy in Chiembe that is supposed to send you the money?
I must say that the future of tax administration now is in leveraging technology, because technology platforms enable us to have a very efficient way of dealing with clients. It also removes the manual interventions that lead to a lot of discretionary tendencies. So technology platforms have to be deployed. We've deployed a number of them. For the domestic taxes, we have the e-tax, what we call electronic taxes, and for customs, we have Asikuda World. Asikuda World is the system that we're using for administering customs revenue. Now, the electronic platforms make it very easy for people to interface with the revenue administration, because most of these require a single point of entry, and then after you have made that point of entry, all other transactions that you do, the system actually does them for you without having to be burdened with paperwork and everything that goes with that. I'll give an example. E-tax. Once someone registers for e-tax, in e-tax, and they've registered, they get one TIN number. We all have one number. Before, we used to have an income tax number, a VAT number. If you're an excise taxpayer, you had an excise number and all that. But now that's not necessary anymore. You have a TIN number, and that's your number in this entire system. It's a single view of the client across all the different tax heads. So if you report for income tax and you registered for VAT, the system is able to tell whether the income that you have reported is matching as against your VAT declarations and things like those. If you make VAT declarations, by the end of the year, the system is able to tell that your income should be within this bracket for that financial year. And that's a very efficient way of actually administering revenue. Now, from the taxpayer's perspective, once you get over the hiccups of actually registering, the system alerts you. The system alerts you because when you register, you give a contact email and phone number. So the system will give you SMS alerts or even email alerts or both to alert you when you must be bringing your provisionals, when you must be filing your VAT returns, when you must be filing your final income tax returns, so that you do not fall into the pitfall of, I missed the deadline and therefore I'm going to be charged penalty.
Are you reaching out to people in Chiembe, people in Chikubu, people in, I don't know about Owino, because that seems very okay for the corporate industry, that will have an IT guy, that their accounts are very, very clear and sophisticated. I'm thinking of the guy in Chiembe that is importing electronics, that is importing all manner of paraphernalia.
Yes.
Is anyone going out saying, okay, we're not just doing a clinic in a tent, we are doing a day or a week within this business area, and we're going to help these guys open their e-portfolio?
We have been having what we call tax hubs, and we have a mobile van that goes to different places to help people register for tax identification numbers. But that's actually registering for taxes, because once you get the tax identification number, in that process of registering, then your profile enters into the system. Now, the category of traders we have in Chiembe or Owino, most of them would fall, many of them, not most, many of them would fall into what we call the presumptive tax income regime. So presumptive income tax regime. So once they are registered and they are logged into that regime, the system expects them by the end of the year to pay a certain amount of money, because those amounts of money are indicated in the law. If you have a threshold of more than, turnover of more than this and that amount of money, you pay a flat amount of money for the year. So incrementally, with education and reaching out, those are the kinds of things we are trying to do to get that category of traders on board as well.
I'll go back a bit to...
And I must add that Once they are able to get into the system, it also eliminates for them the, call it the challenge of having to deal with the URA all the time to come to your shop and say, okay, I think you have 2 billion in here. Let me collect this and this amount of money. You just come forward, log yourself into the system, and then the system will be able to help you be compliant.
I'll give you a bit of a feel from the trader that does 10,000, 20,000 hardware trade from China, from wherever. They get the feel that they are taxed higher than their colleagues that do bigger volumes, that their rates are not the same. And there is another feedback, and I don't know how true this is, but people feel that if you're doing your taxes in Jinja, you will get a different rate from the guy assessed in Kampala. How is that possible?
First and foremost, Peter, tax rates are uniform.
I thought.
The tax rates are uniform. So you will not get a different tax rate in Jinja from a tax rate in Kampala. What may differ, and we are trying to streamline that also, especially for the customs regime, what may differ are the values. The values imputed on your goods. Because the valuation in officers in Jinja may not apply similar values to those in Kampala. And we're trying to automate this process as well so that we remove the manual interventions. So that could bring, I acknowledge that that is where some of the disparities come from. Two, we may also have, because even though we have really tried to clean ourselves up, we do have pockets. We do have pockets of unethical behavior. And so you may find that in a particular station, maybe it's possible to get away with certain things, and you'll not be able to get away with them in another station. And we have seen migration of traders, and that sort of gives us indication of that kind of activity. So that could be the explanation for why someone in Jinja and Kampala get different treatment in terms of how much taxes they pay. Now on the hardware, again, the answer must be in the way our people in Chiseka market handle their business with their colleagues in the bigger scale trade. If your business is not properly formalized, you're not able to keep track of how much money you bring in, how much money you send out, how much money is out there that you must collect, and someone else is using a system to do that for them. Most likely you're going to pay a higher tax because perhaps your profit will be higher than someone who's using a system to track all their expenses. You get what I mean? Your income will come in, but because you're not keeping proper record of how much money you're spending, you're not able to claim all your expenses against that income. And therefore your profit for the year will be higher than the guy, bigger scale, who has deployed a system to do that for them. Income will come in, it will be recognized, expenses will go out and they will be recognized, and the system will, simply turn out what the net income is for purposes of tax. So I think that is where the difference would be. I would encourage our trading community that the moment you decide to invest significant amount of money in trade, you must invest in a system that helps you track your income and expenses. Record keeping, bookkeeping is important. That will help you pay your taxes in the right amount.
Let's deal with the issues of exemptions. There was a time when Ugandan businessmen and manufacturers were crying out that it was very easy for someone foreign to come in here and get different exemptions on their businesses. And the natives were usually not in any way assisted to get to this. And they say, effectively, you're creating competition against us and facilitating the competition to knock us out.
Again, exemptions are available to everyone. There is no exemption which is available to a foreigner, which is not available to a Ugandan. It's just that many times people do not keep that at the back of their minds, that they must look out for what incentives are available to them in the law. I'll call them incentives. Some of them are exemptions, some of them are, deferred, call them deferred kind of arrangements. But these incentives are available to everyone. If you don't take advantage of them, you will not benefit from them. Someone else takes advantage of them, maybe because they have taken tax advice, they have planned and projected for their taxes within their business model, they take advantage of these incentives. And therefore it will look like the foreigners are, getting advantage over the locals. So I think people who have invested significant amount of money in business should take the extra step to know what kind of incentives are available to them in order for them to take
They have to
advantage
seek them
of
out.
Yes.
I get to
They are
possibly,
in the law, they just need to use them.
possibly my last section of this. How ready is URA to deal with the big monies from the oil industry? Have you been anchored in? Because we are certainly going to get a boom. We had the recent one, courtesy of the dispute between Tullow Oil, Heritage and the others, and URA was tipped through the roof by a single transaction. Are you ready for this money? Have you prepared for it? And will this not create a lethargy within your system to say, well, if our threshold is 15 billion, 15 trillion, we'll get it. We'll get it.
No. URA is ready. We may not be at 100%, but we have already started putting in place the mechanisms to receive oil revenue. We have a natural resources management unit, what we call natural resources management unit. It covers the oil and gas as well as other minerals. We are developing an oil and gas system to be able to track in a separate manner revenue coming from the oil and gas sector. We have also trained economists, accountants, lawyers. We are getting there. We are getting there. Indeed, the capacity that we have in our, call it domestic taxes, is equivalent to some of the capacity you have in the oil companies. But it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. We are training and we've sent a number of people abroad for masters and all that. However, URA has not been doing it alone. We've had a massive capacity building initiative across all government agencies, in the Department of Petroleum, in the Auditor Generals, in Bank of Uganda, URA, Accountant General. So systems are ready. Systems are ready to receive revenue from the oil and gas sector. Indeed, as you've correctly noted, we have already received some money from that sector through the capital gains tax that we managed to get from the Heritage Tullow transaction. So we have to smarten it up. It takes time, but we are ready.
In projecting terms, seated at your desk, where do you see the oil revenue push the tax bounty to? In 10 years, are you anticipating 30 trillion? Are you anticipating 20?
I'm afraid I'm not able to give that kind of figure right now, because a lot of it is dependent on also certain fiscal decisions, fiscal policy decisions relating to that oil. For example, the oil money, for example, you have to decide how much of it goes into budget support and how much of it is actually invested for future generations. So it's not possible for me to come up with that kind of projection right now.
Community social responsibility. I'll say very briefly that about 6 months ago, I went to a place called Katende, and I was told, was unaware, that URA helped in replant this forest. And I said, well, if it was mine, I would gloat about it. I would blow it to the world and say, I do this. But how much do you invest back in the communities that you collect the monies from?
We have And I must admit, in the past financial year, we didn't do much. But we have a vibrant CSR policy where we have done a lot of CSR activity. The natural resources one you've seen. We've also done Cancer Institute. We've done a lot of support.
Not
to
the
Cancer
cosmetic
Institute.
painting, I hope.
No. We've done cosmetics, but we've also done real tangible things. We have provided food. At the time there was a famine in Northeast. We provided food to Teso. We provided mattresses to a health center in Karamoja. We have built a house for some lady that was profiled in the papers as not having a home. So we have done certain CSR activities. In the past year, we've really been burdened by a very poor budget, so we didn't really do that. One big one we did is the hearing aids. That was the last big one we did. And because of that, I think it was 4,000 people with hearing impairment that got hearing aids. That was a really big impact one.
Thank you very much, Madam Doris Akol, and thank you very much, viewers. It's been a pleasure hosting you here.
Thank you, Mr.
We'll definitely reach your teams as we get feedback. Viewers will be open to feedback. You can post your feedback on our Facebook page. Just go to Issues at Hand, post your feedback. We'll be able to get back to the URA teams, ask your questions. My friends in the car industry, I think yours is rested. We won't have it coming back again, hopefully.
Yes.
And till we meet again, good evening.
Could I also say that
Sure.
URA is on Facebook, so they can also reach us on Facebook at Uganda Revenue Authority at Facebook, whatever that is. We have a Facebook page, so we can also receive their feedback.
An interface, yes.
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much and good evening.